This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. In most master games, the first real surprise doesn't appear until around move 12. Yet casual players are already in trouble by move 4. You're developing pieces, your opponent is too, and nothing seems wrong. But the stage for the entire game is quietly being locked in. By the time a novelty appears at move 12 in a Grandmaster game, something more important has already happened. Both players have quietly declared what kind of game they're willing to play. Will it be sharp and tactical, slow and strategic, or something flexible in between? That declaration starts on move 1, not with memorized traps, but with a choice of plan. The numbers are revealing. Elite players split their first moves between e4, d4, and everything else, not because of fashion, but because each leads to a different kind of middle game story. Open positions, locked pawn chains, asymmetrical structures, they don't just appear, they're negotiated in those early choices. We'll unpack how your first 10 to 15 moves shape that negotiation, why your king's safety can't be an afterthought, and how to use openings without being used by them. At this point in the game, you're not just getting your pieces out, you're sketching the blueprint for everything that follows. Each tempo you spend, pushing a pawn, moving a knight, repeating a bishop, either improves your future options or quietly trades them away. That's why databases full of engine-checked games matter. They reveal which blueprints actually hold up under pressure, and which collapse when tested. You don't need to copy them blindly, but you can borrow their structural ideas, much like an architect studies existing bridges before daring to design a new one. Think of these early moves as a negotiation between three priorities that constantly pull against each other: central grip, piece activity, king security. Most trouble comes from over-investing in one and neglecting the others. Push too many pawns and you may gain space, but your pieces fall behind and your king sits in the crosshairs. Overdevelop pieces without claiming any central squares, and you end up with active pieces that don't influence the important part of the board. Castle automatically on the same side every game without asking whether the pawn structure supports it, and you can walk straight into a pawn storm. Modern engines haven't changed these tensions, they've only shown how precisely strong players balance them. Look at the contrast between three famous systems. In the Ruy Lopez, white builds slowly, using central presence and piece pressure to create long-term targets on black's queenside. You're not trying to win in the opening, you're trying to plant problems that blossom later. In the Sicilian, black accepts a spatial concession, no pawn on e5, in return for dynamic piece play and an unbalanced structure. The higher decisive rate in these games isn't magic, it's the natural result of asymmetry. Someone usually oversteps. In the Queen's Gambit, white offers a pawn not as a sacrifice to be heroically refuted, but as bait to distort black's pawn structure or concede central tension. Many lines revolve around whether black can equalize without handing white a lasting structural target. Rather than asking, "What's the best opening?" ask, "What kind of imbalance am I comfortable steering into?" Sharp attacking chances with risk on your own king? Small enduring advantages in space or structure? Equal but complex positions where understanding plans matters more than memory? Your preparation should evolve from copying move orders to understanding these trade-offs. Central concessions for activity, structural weaknesses for initiative, safety now versus activity later. The databases show you concrete examples. Your job is to reverse engineer the reasoning behind them. When engines prepare players dozens of moves deep, it's not just to avoid traps, it's to steer toward very specific types of positions that suit their style. A tactical player might happily walk into a razor-sharp Sicilian line that others avoid, because they know the resulting chaos favors them. Think of your own games in practical terms. When you start with 1.e4, are you comfortable meeting c5 and the wild pawn storms that often follow? Or do you actually play better in the slower structures that arise after 1.d4? That preference should influence what you study first, not the other way around. One useful lens is time investment. If you don't play tournaments with long time controls, memorizing 20 moves of sharp theory is often a poor return. You'll gain more by learning a simpler system where the plans are easy to recall under pressure. harmonize development, identify typical pawn breaks, know where your pieces usually belong. Your challenge this week: pick one white opening and one reply as black. For each, choose a single main line that fits your style and play at least 5 games in that structure, online or over the board. After each game, don't ask, "Did I follow theory?" Ask, "Where did my plan run out? Which piece felt misplaced most often? Did my king feel safe when the center opened?" Then, with a board or analysis tool, revisit just the first 10 to 12 moves of each game. Try small improvements: a different knight route, a more useful pawn push, an earlier castle, or a delayed one. The goal isn't to memorize a perfect sequence, but to refine a personal starter kit of positions you understand slightly better every time you sit down to play. Opening theory may soon feel less like books of lines and more like a live navigation app. Instead of memorizing long routes, you'll get engine-guided routes of least resistance tailored to your style and opponent, updating with every novelty played in top events. Like a dynamic budget that reallocates money as markets shift, your preparation will constantly rebalance, shaving time from stale variations, investing in fresh ideas, and nudging you toward structures you handle best. Treat these early moves like sketching blueprints. You don't know every detail of the final building, but the layout you choose now limits or unlocks future rooms. As engines, databases, and your own games feed you patterns, stay curious about small tweaks in move order. Over time, your standard setups become a flexible toolkit, not a script. Before next week, ask yourself, what is the opening move I want to make in the next 7 days, and how will I set the stage, time, place, and tools so that starting feels almost unavoidable? If I imagine my future self 90 days from now thanking me for one decisive first step I took this week, what exactly did I do first, and what did I say no to in order to protect that move? When resistance shows up right before I begin, distractions, doubts, over-planning, what's one simple script I can use in the moment, out loud, to pivot myself back into making that very first move instead of rearranging the stage forever? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!